Call this meeting to order at Cundy County Council meeting, March 3rd, 2020. It's 6 p.m. We'll begin with public comment session, just so everybody's clear. Everybody gets 4 minutes to talk. You good? Everybody gets 4 minutes to talk. When you have 1 minute remaining, I'll hold this up and then turn it over. That way I don't have to interrupt your time on there. We'll begin. Miss Melinda Jenkins, please.
Hey, I'm Melinda Jenkins. I was here last night with the Planning Commission to talk just a little bit. I live on South Cragmore Drive, and I am a new permanent resident to South Carolina, but we've owned this property for 20 years and had the house there for 18 years. Since moving here permanently, we've noticed a bit of activity down at the front of the subdivision and have learned that after zoning was changed in 2008, or zoning was implemented in 2008, the commercial track was done right there on 130. It includes both sides of our neighborhood, which initially I think was agriculture or maybe subdivision, but not really suitable for a home site, but eventually got changed to commercial, and it's been purchased. I'm not sure exactly when, and now there's some movement for commercial development. And so our neighborhood has kind of come together. We're concerned, not about development in particular, but about the location and the fact that an encroachment has already been obtained for addresses so that this commercial development will be coming off South Cragmore, will be the address for the commercial development. If you're not familiar with South Cragmore, it is a single entrance road with about 15 plus homes on it. No big gated development, not country club, not HOAs. And we all kind of liked that about the property when we purchased, big sprawling down to the lake kind of lots. Most of us have built here in plans to retire here, which is what my husband and I have are moving towards, but we now are permanent residents. We had met with Mr. Chapman to get information about what was going on. Also, our councilman came and kind of spoke to us as a community when we tried to gather, and we are just trying to figure out what is best for us to try to do to maybe keep, as most other areas right in that little commercial development, the neighborhoods don't have commercial on both sides, also in going into the road. Somehow the roads are included in your property lines on Cragmore, not exactly sure, which means the entire entry is owned by a commercial developer, can change the whole entry to our neighborhood however he pleases, and has business addresses already assigned with the South Cragmore, which is a residential street. So we're kind of looking for guidance on what we might could do, not to stop development. We know development is going to occur, but to be part of the process of helping determine maybe the entrances come off 130, which is how every other business development comes off in that area instead of off a residential street, which is a county-owned street. And I know 130 is a state street, so there's probably different regulations. So we're looking for guidance from the council on what we can do to work together to keep our property values up. We would love to be a part of helping determine what might be useful in that area. For residents in the area, we are very closely in proximity of big developments with lots of people in them. There are probably things that people would like to see in that area. But the biggest thing for us is the fact that we actually have now street addresses in the ground that will have a South Cragmore street address for a business development, and it's a residential street. So we're looking for guidance on how to maybe switch the entries to the main road.
Okay. Mr. Markovich.
For the record, I am Tom Markovich, and I'm speaking for myself. I had the privilege to attend a Planning and Economic Development Commission meeting earlier today. And I learned that, in fact, there are members of this council who don't believe that the planning commission members, I guess, are qualified to do any of the planning. They're lay people, as has been described. They're not professionals. And I have a difficult time understanding that, because they've been involved in planning in this county for over 25 years. I've been coming to planning commission meetings for over 25 years. It sounds to me like you don't need the planning commission. So you're not obligated by law to have one. Just abolish it. You don't have to have one. You can do away with it. You have all the powers, and this home rule. You guys have the powers that you end up passing on to the planning commission. And so I know this, if I were a member of that planning commission and I heard those comments tonight, I would be highly, highly insulted. I just think it's beyond words. Thank you.
Mr. Barnett.
I'm Jerry Barnett, just as always, standing on the same rock I always stand on. Stand on the shoulders of patriots and heroes. I'd like to start out by thanking the two members that stand up and represent the silent vast majority, over 99% of the population of this county, that sent you a message by their silence, loud and clear. The silence is deafening from the silent majority. The message is, leave us alone. Even though I attended some of these meetings to defend a free society, I signed no papers. I subscribed to none of it. I've got my own plan, just like the rest of the 99% of this county. We have our own plan. Now, the fact that these two gentlemen know what their oath is and who they're supposed to represent, not rule, does it have anything, I'm just going to pose this as a question, does it have anything to do with the fact that they wore the uniform and swore an oath to this great country and to defend and protect the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic? A little different from the oath the rest of you guys took. I don't think they de-oathed any of us except the ones that got a less than honorable discharge. Myself and these two guys got an honorable discharge. So I'm going to thank those two people, and the three of you that choose to represent 0.8% is pitiful. There's no explanation that'll explain away the truth and the facts here, and I'm kind of a truth machine. I forget nothing. So keep that in mind, and thank you. I'll talk a little bit later on the comp plan.
I do have a written comment that was given that will be put into the minutes as well. So I'll deliver those to Ms. Smith. That'll be added to there. Council member comments?
Yes, I've got two.
Yes, sir.
Number one, I agree. I think any commercial property being developed should have access from a main road, not a neighborhood. So I absolutely agree with that. I've got a shout out tonight for Ms. Brock and Team Brock. I got a phone call this weekend from a considerable classmate who works for the state of South Carolina, who's bought a piece of property on Lake Hartwell in Oconee County. He's going to build a cabin. And he talked to almost 10 different departments in Oconee County, gathering information, property taxes, so forth, so on. Even talked to Ms. Brock. And he said, I've been dealing with county governments in my job for 30-something years. And he said, I've never had such a friendly, informative, helpful conversation as I did with the departments in Oconee County. Shout out to Ms. Brock and Team Brock. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may correct that, though, it's Team Oconee, not Team Brock. It's all of us, sir. And that goes straight from my heart. I'm literally just happy as I could be. It is truly Team Oconee.
Any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair. To direct, this comment's directed at the gentleman who spoke. I don't believe he lives in Oconee County, but when I said working with our staff, there were two parallel paths that was I don't think it was the intent of council to create two working groups, and it was very inefficient. And that was purely all I was referring to. I appreciate very much what our planning commission does. I have a ton of faith in them. But when we directed staff to work on corridors, while we also, what I would consider an error, had planning commission also working on corridor planning, that was an error. That was not, I don't think, this council's intent. It speaks nothing to a lack of confidence or appreciation for what the planning commission does. So I take offense to those comments. They were mischaracterized, and that's easy to get up there and say that when nobody else here knows what you're talking about. But that was done to try to make it easier on these folks who spend a lot of time and have spent an enormous amount of time on a comprehensive plan. It's a fantastic document, and I really appreciate what the Planning Commission does. I'm very grateful for what they do, and I apologize to them if in any way my comments would be construed to discount their value to this county. So that's all I got to say.
And I'd like to state the planning commission's doing a great job as well. We're putting an awful lot on the plate. The intent to remove some things on there so our staff can continue to work forward on that is what we're trying to do. I think with all the things that council has continued to put down, y'all done a phenomenal job. We appreciate the communication that y'all have from representing all the districts that are out there. It's been a busy time, and it's not a job that I think y'all get $20 a meeting or something, maybe pays your gas to get up here. So appreciate the time and effort that the entire planning commission and the representation it has for Oconee County. Any other comments? A moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Well, Father, thank you for this day that you've made. I pray that you'd instill it in our hearts to be grateful, to rejoice in all of your gifts, including this day, and that you allowed the sun to peek out a bit for us and brighten the day. I pray that you'd allow your light to shine here and brighten this meeting so we can see clearly, so council can make wise decisions, so we can communicate well. And I'm very grateful of this forum, for the chance for the public to have their input, for the council to deliberate. I just pray that your will would be done in that process. In your name I pray. Amen.
Ms. Brock, will you lead us in the pledge?
I'd be happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two meeting minutes to approve. The first is February 11th, 2020, the strategic planning retreat minutes.
Make a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Changes? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Got approval of February 18th regular meeting minutes. Have a motion to approve.
Make a motion. Second.
A motion and a second. Any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Brock?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman and members of council, you have just approved the minutes for the strategic plan meeting, which were held in February. As an amendment to that, we are adding this supplemental report. We will make this an action item on the March 17th meeting. Feel free to take this document with you, review it. It will not be a binding document at that time. It will just give the council and direction to the administrator and staff for us to incorporate the strategic priorities for this year into the budget allocation process, and would give us a guiding light, so to speak, going forward.
Mr. Reed, anything tonight?
Please, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Two matters. Ordinance number 2020-06. This is the Project Aztec matter. We want to go ahead and have a public hearing. Again, the documents have been attached for backup and available for public review. However, the company is working out a third-party relationship and asked that the actual third reading on the ordinance be postponed. So we need a motion to postpone third reading of 2020-06. Likewise, first reading of 2020-07. That item is not ready to go forward, so we'll need a motion to postpone 2020-07 as well.
Need a motion to postpone ordinance 2020-06.
Make a motion. Second.
A motion and a second. I'm glad that the documents are out there now for everybody to review. We will have an additional public hearing on there as well. It's a very rare occasion that we do that, but I'd like to continue as we have those documents out there for public review. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. Need a motion to postpone ordinance 2020-07.
Make a motion. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So we'll first start with presentation to council. Mr. Davis, you have the floor.
Well, I appreciate y'all having me here to present what I know to be a good document and some good results from your fiscal year 19 audit. I'm sorry it's a little later in the year for the presentation. I realize we're in March and we're talking about things that occurred in June 2019. But anyway, I think you'll find the information to be good in our reports. I'll just start with that. I'm going to refer to some page numbers as I go in case you all are following along. If not, I'll just give you some highlights here and there. If at any time you have any questions, just interrupt me. And then, of course, if you haven't had any throughout, I'll ask at the end if there are any as well. But the first thing I want to highlight is the CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the award from the Government Finance Officers Association for the 2018 CAFRs, this would have been June 30, 18, is in the 2019 document. That's customary. I'm not sure how many years in a row the county's been awarded that award, but it's a significant number. And that award's in there just to reflect the fact that 2018 was graded by the Government Finance Officers Association and it met the requirements of their standard. Just a little flavor on that. There's only about 19 or 20 counties in the state of South Carolina that prepare that document, that CAFR document. So you all are doing what less than half of the rest do. It's above and beyond financial reporting, which is obviously a good thing. The next thing I want to highlight is on page number 1. It's the first page with a page number on it. It's the first of 3 reports that we've issued in the CAFR. This one's called our Independent Auditor's Report. It's the report on the financial statements as a whole. The second page of that report, you'll see a subtitle that says Opinions. Our opinions were unmodified. I know that doesn't sound all that great, but that's the best thing you can get. So your options are unmodified, modified, or adverse. And again, we've issued an unmodified report, which is the best you can get. Second section I just wanted to mention to you all is the Management's Discussion and Analysis, or shortened MD&A. That begins on page 4 and goes through page 16. this is a long, long document. I think I've got written down 136 pages in this CAFR. So out of all that, if I had to suggest one part for you all to read, it would be that management's discussion and analysis. It provides historical information, so 2018 as compared to 2019, changes from year to year, and then some analysis on your capital assets, some analysis on your debt, and then a look forward into the year we're in now, 2020, considering those conditions that were in place at June 30, 19. So with that, just to jump into a few numbers, and again, just feel free to holler at me if at any point you need me to stop and explain something, but the first statement I'm going to mention is on page 17. It's essentially the balance sheet for the county as a whole. It's called the statement of net position. Just a few highlights there. Total assets of the county, $193 million. Of that, are $133 million are capital assets, which represents about 70% of your total assets. Those things like property, plant, equipment, infrastructure, things of that nature. And that 133 is net of accumulated depreciation on those assets. Cash for the county as a whole, $34.5 million. Investments for the county as a whole, again, a little over $9 million. Those represent about 18%, about 5% of that total assets number respectively. So 18% of total assets represents cash, 5% represents investment. I'll give you a little flavor on those numbers as we continue to go, but total liabilities, just following along, I'm still on page 17 there, almost $77 million. Of that total liabilities section, essentially the two largest individual numbers are the net pension liability associated with the South Carolina retirement system and the police officers' retirement system. Those liabilities are almost $33 million. The total other post-employment benefits liability, which is calculated similar to the pension liability, but is different in nature in that other post-employment benefits are in the effect of retiree health insurance. For former employees, that liability is estimated at $11.3 million. So of that total liabilities number I gave you of almost $77 million, 58% represent the pension liability and the other post-employment benefits liability. And those are estimates based on long-term assumptions, mortality rates, things of that nature. A couple other things, current liabilities, which include accounts payable, accrued salaries, accrued interest on your debt, things like that, $4.8 million, which is about 6% of that total liabilities number. And then other long-term liabilities, which are general obligation bonds, capital leases, special source revenue bonds, landfill post-closure liabilities, all of those aggregated together are about $28 million in that, both bonded debt, capital leases, and then landfill post-closure costs. All this, assets minus liabilities, give you equity, still on page 17. So total equity of the county or net position is about $115 million. A significant portion of that is what we call the net investment in capital assets, which is essentially just capital assets minus any debt that was issued to acquire those assets that's still outstanding. That portion of your equity is about $116 million. Restricted portions, which are for capital projects, debt service, and then other functions and programs, $15.4 million restricted net position. And then that leaves an unrestricted deficit or a negative number of almost $17 million. Just to give you some information on that real quick, that number sounds bad, that deficit net position, but as a result of a couple of accounting standards that were implemented last year and then back in about 2015, I think, related to the pension liability and the other post-employment benefits liability, created those significant numbers. You remember I mentioned before about 58% of your total liabilities for pension and OPEB. If you back those numbers out of that deficit, you don't have a deficit anymore, to a significant positive balance. So it's always good to consider that deficit in light of those big numbers there that you essentially have very little control over. And in fact, with the pension liability, you have absolutely no control over what it is. Just moving along here, going to page 19, this gets us to the general fund, which is always of primary interest and importance with any government, and the county's no different. Total assets in the general fund, $26.6 million. Of that, 26, cash and investments in the general fund made up about $15.4 million. That's close to 60% of the general fund's assets is cash and investments. a little information on that. If we look at the income statement for the general fund had expenditures of $47.8 million. If you divide that by 12, that gets you about $3.9 million a month, what the general fund spends on average. So in light of that cash balance the general fund has, $15.3 million, you've essentially got about 4 months of cash on hand, which at June 30th is a good place to be. As you all are very aware of your property tax calendar, June is essentially a very lean month leading up to those property tax bills going out and then ultimate collection. So having 4 months of cash on hand in your general fund is a good place to be at June 30. So I know that's that may be kind of a big number, and I don't want anybody to necessarily think you got too much cash. That's a good, like I said, it's a good place to be. Another significant asset in the general fund is the advance from the Focus Fund. That's essentially just the lease they have the Focus Fund has with One Tone. As those payments are made, Focus is slated to pay back the general fund for its essentially financing that project. So you'll notice that in there as well. General fund liabilities about $3.6 million. Those are all current liabilities, accounts payable, accrued salaries, things like that. All this leads to fund balance in the general fund of a little over $22 million. Of that $22 million, about $7.1 million is what we call unassigned. So it's not restricted or committed or not what's termed non-spendable. Unassigned fund balance, which doesn't necessarily equal cash, obviously, but another healthy place to be, and that's your unassigned fund balance is about 33% of your total fund balance. So again, good numbers there. Flipping over to page 20, the income statement for the governmental type funds and specifically for the general fund, revenues in the general fund of almost $48.5 million. Of that 48.5, property taxes are about 75% of your total revenues in the general fund. That's $36.4 million in property taxes. Expenditures in the general fund, almost $48 million. And we talked about that a little bit earlier, that cash on hand and the liquidity that you have to finance the operations of the county. All in all, general fund reports an increase in its fund balance from 2018 to 2019 of almost $2 million, $1.8 million. Just to give you some information with that increase in the general fund balance as compared to the general fund budget, general fund budgeted revenues of $47.3 million, collected or recognized revenues of $48.5 million. So you collected more than you thought, which is always a good thing. That's a variance of about $1.2 million there. We look at the expenditure section. I'm on pages 23 and 24 if y'all are following along, but expenditures budgeted $48.6 million, recognized or actually spent $47.8 million. So you spent less than you thought, another positive variance. So just to highlight those two things there, you collected more than you thought and you spent less than you thought. So from both the revenue side and the expenditure side, good things are happening there. Overall, general fund has a positive variance in excess of the expenditures that were budgeted of almost $2.4 million. Just to jump to the rock quarry briefly, it's a significant enterprise fund of the county, obviously. It had operating, and I'm on page 26 here. It had operating income of $2.8 million and had an increase in its equity position of $2.1 million. If we go to page 27, which is important for any business, is a statement of cash flows. Rock Quarry generated operating cash flows from operations of almost $3.2 million. All of that was essentially needed to purchase equipment and land and to pay down capital lease debt. And you'll see that in that statement. The Rock Quarry purchased infrastructure, equipment, property of $2.8 million and paid principal and interest on its outstanding capital lease of just about $700,000, and then sent $500,000 to the general fund as it has historically done. So the Rock Quarry reflects a decrease in cash this year of about $730,000, but you can see the significant reinvestment or investment in the infrastructure and land of the quarry, and then the payment down of that debt. And it has cash. The Rock Quarry has cash on hand at June 30th of $12.3 million. The rest of it I'm just going to briefly go over. You can find the footnotes on pages 30 through 79. there's supplementary information, which is both, some of it's required and some of it by state law and other requirements, on pages 80 through 104. The statistical section, which is an essential part of any kind of CAFR, that provides essentially 10 years of historical analysis on all kinds of different things, you can find on pages 105 to 129. The second and third two reports, at the very beginning I mentioned we had issued 3 reports in these financial statements. The second one is on page 130. It's what we call our yellow book report. It's a report on internal controls over compliance with laws and regulations. That report is not designed to offer an opinion, and you'll find that we've not offered an opinion in that report, but that is to say that as a result of our audit, we didn't note any instances of non-compliance that we would have to report to you all. So that's a good result. The final and third report is on pages 132 and 133. The county received and spent over $750,000 in federal funds. That requires what's called a single audit, a compliance audit. We performed such an audit and issued a report on compliance with federal requirements associated with that airport improvement grant program. No findings or issues associated with that, which is again a good result. And then page 136 just gives you an audit summary, just to say that there were no findings, no internal control deficiencies, and then tells you again what major federal program we audited associated with the federal compliance audit. So with that, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
So, our unassigned fund balance, I think it increased around 800,000 this past year, which is terrific. We need to increase it more to get ready for a recession. What do you see other counties as a percent of their general fund budget? Do they keep like 20%, or what's their target for their unassigned?
It varies wildly, I'm sure you can imagine. They're all, the counties in terms of population that are much larger. You look right down the road at Greenville County or Anderson County, I mean, they would want to probably carry a higher percentage than maybe in Oconee County or another smaller county would in terms of population and the services that you all are required to provide. Some places set a minimum fund balance. That's usually around 20-25% of their expected expenditures for the following year. So I think in general, that's probably a safe benchmark to maybe grade yourself on, but also would have to be considered in light of, like I said again, where you are in the world, what kind of services you're providing your citizens and things like that.
So we have a ways to go on unassigned fund balance. The next question regards the audit report issued by Cherry Becker in July of 2019, along with the internal control recommendations. Did you read this report?
I did not. It was long. I didn't read every page of it, but I did glance through it to notice their findings. Yes, sir.
Did you look at their internal control recommendations?
Yes, sir, I did.
Has your firm made those same recommendations in the last couple of years to this council?
No, not that I'm aware of. If we would have, you had a formal document that would have made those recommendations.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, thank you for being here. I'm not closing out comments. I just appreciate going through and working with staff on there. It's always good when I'd like to congratulate staff and on that. I know it's a long process to go through the audit. Appreciate those, working through that process. It's great to see no issues and spending less than what's planned. That takes a lot. It takes every department working together, and I'm thankful for that. I know that's not always easy. The pension liability is always one of those things that we look at and try to how are you going to fund that and continue to fund that properly. So I appreciate your great being here. Any other council member comments? Okay.
Sure, I would just want to echo what you said. Staff have to do a great job. We wouldn't be able to have such a successful audit. You wouldn't be able to have such a successful audit without the competency and accountability that your staff has. Anyway.
Thank you. All right. Got Mr. Steve Pellissier from Appalachian Council of Governments. Great to have you tonight. Drive up to hang out with us for a little bit.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you this evening. I also appreciate the support that Oconee County has given to the Council of Governments over the past many years. And so I'm here this evening to briefly give you our 2019 Annual Report of Services and Return on Investment to the county. I want to start off by thanking Mr. Davis and Mr. Elliott for serving on our Board of Directors. Other Board of Directors members from Oconee County include Senator Alexander, our most senior board member, Seneca City Council member Dana Moore, Mr. E. Riley, and Ms. Marta Whalen. Your folks all have really good attendance and participation in the Council of Governments board meetings. You're well represented. Appreciate the excellent working relationship we have with County Council and with your staff. Your folks are really good to work for, and you have a lot of very committed and passionate folks on your staff. You should be proud. I think a good indication of performance is return on investment, and so I'll start with that and giving my report. Oconee County invests annually into the Council of Governments $38,993. For 2019, the amount of money that got returned back to the county, municipalities in the county, other entities and citizens in the county was a tad over $7.5 million, or $193 back for every one you invested. Actually, of the 6 county council reports I get to do this year, this is my most fun because y'all are number one both in total return to $7.5 million and the ROI. So very glad to be here this evening. We were able to work with entities in the county to get $4.7 million in federal and state grant dollars. Because of your participation in the Council of Governments, you are eligible for Economic Development Administration investments. And those are the ones that you don't get very often, but when you do get to the big dollar amounts. And last year, you got one of those, the $3.7 million from EDA for the Oconee County Joint Sewer Authority, the Fairplay Sewer Project, and picked up another $935,000 in state rural infrastructure funds for that. We were also able to work with City of Seneca to secure a $500,000 community development block grant for the Seneca Building Downtown Demolition Project. Also in 2019, Oconee County received $1.85 million through the Council of Governments Rural Transportation System Improvement Program for the intersection improvement over there at J.P. Stevens Road, Cherry Road, and Martin Creek Road. Last year, spent $500,000 on preliminary engineering with a total project cost of $1.75 million scheduled through 2024 to complete that project. Another intersection project over in the Oakway area, SC24, where it runs into SC182, $350,000 in 2019 for right-of-way. Total funds committed to that project, $2.65 million, and that's through 2021. And then finally, in the Fairplay area, SC29, where it runs into SC182 and SC243, $1 million last year for engineering, and a total of $4.5 million programmed through 2022 for that. We were able to provide $510,000 in services for seniors. And our program is focused exclusively on keeping seniors in their homes. And that's good for them, and that's good for us as taxpayers. They do better, they're happier, they thrive a lot more than if they're in an institution. Likewise, the services we provide, meals, whether it's a congregate dining site or home-delivered meals, transportation to get to doctors, rehab, or dialysis, home care, those types of things, it's a whole lot cheaper for us as taxpayers to pay a few dollars for that type of thing than to support an elderly person in a long-term care facility at $5,000 to $8,000 a month. Good for both them and for us as a population. We work with WorkLink, the workforce development entity for Anderson, Oconee, and Pickens County. Last year, about $370,000 in training for Oconee County citizens. Used to, when you would talk about economic development and real estate, people would say the 3 most important factors are location, location, and location. Now, if you ask your folks or really anybody anywhere for that matter, what are the three most important factors? Workforce, workforce, workforce. That's the first thing anybody who wants to invest money in your community looks for. We try to help to fill in that gap and help that, while at the same time helping folks to get the skills they need in the ever-evolving manufacturing and business marketplace. $110,000 in transit funding. We're able to purchase an ADA-compliant van for the Oconee County Disabilities and Special Needs Board, and also a ADA-compliant van for Senior Solutions. Our road program, we've been able to provide $33 million of funding in Oconee County since that program began in 1998. Continuing to work on the grant projects from last year, as well as some carryover projects. Town of West Union to Schroeder Street, Burns Mill Road water project, and water interconnection project from the Rural Infrastructure Authority. Over the past 5 years, we've worked with entities in the county to obtain $7.2 million in grant funding. In addition, in the report I distributed, I list other activities, but I know you have other things on the agenda. I'm not going to read all of them to you. Maybe just a couple of highlights. We work with your economic development folks on our InfoMinim program, which when somebody looks to spend money in your county, they send out a request for information that includes a whole lot of questions related to both geographic and socioeconomic data. We provide the software and the system to produce those reports and respond to that information. Training, we offer training in customer service and introductory to management courses. Several of the municipalities in the county have participated this last year. Previously, Oconee County, you've sent employees as well. Others as well, but again, I don't want to take up all your time to read it to you. Going forward, look forward to continuing finishing the road projects we talked about, work with you on more grants to make economic development competitive as well as community development, and continue to work with staff to provide assistance where that's beneficial to you. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Pelliser, thank you for being here today. It is an honor to serve on the board. Appreciate Chairman Dill's leadership from Greenville as the chairman of the board of directors from there. The dollar amount investment that we have in the return is absolutely amazing for what your group continues to push forward to help. Oftentimes when we mention that we serve on these boards through the state and the time that we take out of our day to go down and serve on these boards, a lot of people don't understand exactly what we're doing. And we're fighting for our taxpayers, because this is over $7.5 million that doesn't have to come from the local taxpayers here, and it comes through state and federal grants. And appreciate y'all continuing to do some wonderful things, and this group and your leadership as well. And it is, again, an honor to be part of the board.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
I'd also like to thank you and your team for everything you do for Oconee County. I think it's great, and it's great that we have you in charge. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Any other comments from the council? Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll open public hearings. The first public hearing we're going to have is on comprehensive plan. We do have a few signed up for that. Mr. Stephen Christensen. I should say Dr. Christensen. Good to see you.
I wish to thank the members of the County Council for this opportunity to address adoption of the Oconee County 2020 Comprehensive Plan. My name is Dr. Stephen Christensen, and I am here tonight on behalf of Advocates for Quality Development. I'm a retired physician, and for the last 18 years, I've been a property owner in Oconee County. In those 18 years, I've seen significant increase in automobile traffic. The Highway 123 corridor is choked with traffic and moves at a crawl during rush hour. Affordable housing in the county is limited. The scourge of drugs and violence affects us, even in our beloved small towns. The sprawl of our towns worsens as they grow, and yet the downtowns wither. Increasingly, the natural splendor and open spaces of Oconee County is disappearing, and ironically, that beauty, which initially attracted so many, is now slowly being lost. Hopefully, Oconee County can learn from others so that Highway 123 doesn't become another Woodruff Road in Greenville. Adopting a wait-and-see attitude towards development is not a viable solution for protecting our county's future. One criticism of the county's proposed comprehensive plan is that there were low numbers of citizens providing input. Yet last year, 500 residents of this county spoke out loudly and clearly by attending one or more of the 9 public meetings held throughout the county. Residents submitted 1,100 completed surveys listing their priorities for Oconee County's future. Efforts to solicit these priorities were made on 5 separate occasions by printed inserts in the Upstate Journal newspaper. Radio and newspaper ads were also used to solicit citizen input. Over 600 citizen-generated written comments were received by the county. At a time when most elections are decided by less than 1 voter in 2, I believe the public's response to our county officials' outreach was impressive, and I wish to thank our county officials for their hard work. Recently, I attended an Osher Lifelong Learning Institute class on the history of Oconee County and the Jocassee Valley. A native of the Jocassee Valley, Claudia Whitmer Hembry, taught the class and showed a black and white photo of a lovely young girl enjoying the Whitewater River in that valley many years ago. That young girl grew up to become the mother of Councilman Wayne McCall. I'm sure at the time of that photo, she had little idea that the Whitewater River she so enjoyed and the homes of the people of the Jocassee Valley would all soon vanish under more than 300 feet of water. There were, of course, trade-offs with the development of Lake Jocassee, as there will be in future development of Oconee County. How will our county look in 100 years? We can only guess, but don't we owe it to our children and our grandchildren to plan for Oconee County's future? The comprehensive plan spells out our citizens' priorities today for a better future tomorrow. The plan is much more than a wish list. It's also a roadmap on how to achieve those goals. The plan is not written in stone. Rather, the plan is a living document which can be added to or subtracted from as our county's future priorities change. If people believe there are deficiencies in the plan, we invite them to join in and help make future refinements. We can be certain that change will come to Oconee County, whether it's wished for or not. For this reason, Advocates for Quality Development strongly supports adoption and implementation of Oconee County's 2020 Comprehensive Plan, a plan to protect this blessing from God, Oconee County. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Christensen. Ms. Debbie Sewell.
Hello, I'm Debbie Sewell, and I'm a member of the Agriculture Advisory Board, and I'm here tonight to speak to you about the comprehensive plan. We worked with the Planning Commission to adopt the first agriculture element to our comprehensive plan this year, and we worked long and hard on the goals, objectives, and our strategies for implementing those. And part of what we did, we looked at Oconee County. As some of you know, I'm a native of Oconee County. My family has lived here, and I remember when Whitewater Falls was actually Whitewater Falls. But what our goals and objectives are to preserve the agricultural area, our forest, and also to make sure that we have food security in the county. Our county's changing. It's changed in the last 20 years. It's changed in the last 50 years, and it's going to change again in the coming years. And like Dr. Christensen said, we can do nothing and it's going to change, or we can look at and spend time and look at a plan and come up with something that people have thoughtfully looked at. Then that's what we did, along with the Planning Commission, and I want to thank the Planning Commission on their hard work. They went line by line on every element. We went on one element, and it took a lot of time and effort and a lot of thought. And we want you to know that the Agriculture Advisory Board recommend that you approve the comprehensive plan for Oconee County for 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Sewell. Mr. Markovich. Okay. Mr. Mike Smith.
Want to get up there, Tom? No, sir. Oh, okay.
Put my glasses on here. My name is Mike Smith. I'm a member of the Planning Commission, and I don't feel slighted in any way about being on the Planning Commission at all. I'm before you tonight to support the approval of the comp plan. Comment has been made about citizen participation. The effort to reach the citizens has been extensive and multifaceted. That effort is well documented on page 5 of the executive summary. In short, no effort was spared to reach the citizens. The Planning Commission worked approximately a year on the plan, and when the vote was finally made to bring it forward to you for your discussion and approval, a unanimous show of support among the 7 members was evident. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Pearson?
Thank you, Council. I'm here also to ask the Council to approve the comprehensive plan. We worked long and hard on this document. We worked over a year. We did exactly what Council asked us to do. We went out and got as much participation in the county with all the meetings. I went to just practically every meeting that we had, and we're sorry that more people didn't participate. But I keep hearing about this silent majority. Evidently, they don't want to participate. So we had the ones that were willing to get out there and speak their minds, tell us what they wanted, what they expected for this county, and what they hoped the county would be in 10 years. And that's what we did. And it's not just something, it's like the other one said, this is a living document. It can be changed at any time. This is a companion document to this council to know what our public wants, or at least the ones that got out and spoke. So I'm here on behalf of myself, plus I'm also a member of the Planning Commission, that we recommend that you adopt this document and put it into work for these counties' residents. Thank you.
State your name.
Frankie Pearson. Thank you.
Mr. Blanton?
Yes, sir. Thank you. My name's Rex Blanton. I'm also on the Agriculture Advisory Board, but I'm just speaking as an individual. We just appreciate all that council's done to support the comprehensive plan and agriculture in general, and specifically the recent food summit. You know, most of what was discussed at the food summit Friday was in the comprehensive plan in the agricultural element right here. The plan was made up of input, like was mentioned, from residents and listening sessions. It was made up of elements from other plans, from good practices occurring around the country. It was a wonderful plan, and we appreciate all the work the Planning Commission and the council and staff did to put this document together. Oconee is a very special place, and I'd sure like to keep it that way, attractive and special. And a wise man once told me, if you don't know where you're going, you may end up somewhere else. So I hope we follow the plan and support the plan and keep Oconee beautiful. Thank you.
Mr. Schoonover?
Jim Schoonover, Salem. Well, the previous gentleman just stole my thunder. It was Yogi Berra that said that, by the way. So that might be why the state requires a 10-year plan, because if you don't know where you're going, you may not get there. A section of the executive summary of the comprehensive plan has a paragraph that includes the following statement. It's a little long. The comprehensive plan is the county's principal guiding or vision document designed to formulate a coordinated, long-term planning program to maintain and enhance the managed growth and viability of the county. Then it states, the plan lays out the desired future for the county and relates how that future is to be achieved. So, perhaps after establishing the comprehensive plan, Yogi might say, if you're careful to determine where you're going, you just might get there. Now, people have talked about how many people of the county have put input here, so I'll skip that part of my talk. But the plan also gives consequences for not following the plan. It says things like loss of trust, missed opportunities, disillusionment of the public, short-term action causing long-term problems, etc. What I'm really trying to say is that all organizations, public or private, need a good operating plan, and I think we have a good operating plan. Now, I hope you will pass this plan and then attempt to implement it, to implement a perfect execution of the plan. That way, even with some slips, we will end up with a good execution to make our county the best it can be. Thank you, gentlemen.
That's the end of those that have signed up. If anybody would like to come forward. Yes, sir, Mr. Barnett.
Again, I'm Jerry Barnett. Some of these people that have participated in putting this so-called plan together are in it to pick our pockets. Others are there to violate our rights. You know, we know us in the silent majority, you know, talk about us all you want, we exist. Southern Appalachia exists. We are the people that fought this nation's wars. We know who's who, we know what's what. Nobody's brain dead here. So there will be consequences. The gentleman before me just talked about lost trust. I think maybe the 99% are losing trust in some of you. We've got two that we know we can trust. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any written comments on the public hearing? If you had any written comments, they can be delivered. If you'd like those put in the minutes on there. I'll move to close the public hearing on ordinance 2020-05 for the comprehensive plan. At this time, we'll move to open the public hearing for ordinance 2020-06, ordinance authorizing one, execution and delivery of fee agreement by and between Oconee County, South Carolina and Project Aztec, providing special payment in fee in lieu of taxes. 2, the issuance of a special source revenue credits. 3, the issuance and delivery of a multi-county industrial park agreement with Pickens County. And 4, the conveyance of certain real property and other matters related thereto. As stated by our attorney, the third reading of this will be delayed, but we will open this up at public hearing at this time. Mr. Adams?
I'm Tony Adams, and I thought it was sort of intriguing, you guys talking about all the information on that Project Aztec being out there and everybody could see it. Well, they may be a shortcut, but I had to index through 585 pages of a county comprehensive plan information before I got to 49 pages of Project Aztec. Done that twice. But I do have some questions about it. I'm gonna try to be a little more civil. I've been a little bit uncivil up here a few times, but I'm gonna try to be a little bit more civil tonight. My wife talked to me about that. She has a little influence on me. Okay, first question I got about the agreement is, can someone explain the statement, 200 jobs will be created as needed? Specifically, does what as needed mean in relation to this agreement?
It's not question and answer. It's just public hearing.
Okay, all right. What that tells me is there won't be any steady full-time jobs, or if they are, they're very few. There'll probably be a labor force down there when they're building that, putting in the framework, setting the panels and all that. But once that's done, it's just gonna be a matter of upkeep. Maintenance, little repair, cutting grass. So there's not gonna be any labor, steady full-time jobs, the way I see it. Now, if it's not correct, a question and answer, I understand. But am I wrong or am I right? Is that too big of a question? Okay. Second, another question that won't get answered.
Do you have an estimate on the negotiated FILO based on the 6% assessment and 227 mills at the $50 million investment? Do you have an estimate on what taxes the government or the county is going to get out of it? Now then, this negotiated FILO, that's what the 88% credit is going to be applied to. It looks to me like is when the negotiated FILO is calculated and you apply the 88% credit to it, that we're always going to be stuck at the minimum FILO of $100,000. I could be wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. That's what I had a problem with this thing. In the county, we may be selling a property, making a $312,000 profit on it. But there's a lot more potential in that property than what you're selling away. And y'all know that thing. It just has not been pushed like it should. It's the oldest industrial park in this county. We spent $9 million, mind your money, running a sewer line to it. And I ain't gonna say what a guy in Fairplace said, because it's sort of crude, but it ain't been used. That's not good representation. That's not taking care of the taxpayer dollar. And let's face it, your two main responsibilities are number one, managing the county budget, and then number two, ensuring the safety, health, and well-being of the citizens of Oconee County. I don't think you're doing it right now. I think the citizens are getting shortchanged. Okay, let's go on down the list. There's a clause in the agreement about the special source revenue bonds the county issued for the Point West and High Point housing developments, meaning that some of the revenue from the Aztec FILO will be used to service those bonds. Now, this is a housing project down where the old J.P. Stevens used to be at Clemson. Now, I believe the county council had issued them bonds, which y'all can't take credit for, but I thought they said that the income the county got from property taxes on that development down there would more than cover that. So, when they were 8-10 years ago, were we lied to? I don't know. You go there and look at it, it looks like there'll be enough money coming off that project down there to service those bonds. Like I said, I wish you could answer my questions. It'll clear things up a little bit. Now, I know you can't answer this one, but I'd like to know a little bit about Blue Ridge Solar LLC and Silver Creek Intermediate LLC. That looks like the two companies that's in partnership on this. And it also looks like they're using a real estate holding company up in Charlotte to hold the property farm. It's not as simple as it looks. Y'all well know that. On the far as the information on these companies, are they public companies, where they're located? I tried to do a little research on Blue Ridge Solar. First time I got something pop up. Second time, since then I ain't got anything pop up. First time I looked at it, Blue Ridge Solar LLC popped up and they had them all over. They had about 6-7 states that had Blue Ridge Solar. This must be part of the green movement, you know, solar energy, getting government help and all that, which it may not be bad. I'm not saying it's bad. All I'm saying is Project Aztec, I'm not against solar power. There's a lot of big farms, and farmers want to sell their old farm and put solar panels on, fine. But we got a 322-acre industrial park that the county spent $1.8 million buying and spent $9 million running a sewer pipe to it, that we're setting off the potential. So I hope I made my point, and I'm sorry, I thought it might get some answers, but I don't reckon I will.
We'll try next time.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just as to a point of procedure, I appreciate y'all not responding, obviously, the public comment period, and this is for Mr. Adams or for any members of the public. The public comment period and the public hearing times are for the public to be heard. You all don't answer because there has been historically in other jurisdictions, places I've been to, where the public has been kind of trampled on by council members arguing with them. So that's why y'all are not answering questions, and I appreciate that, so the public can be heard. When the motion is actually brought forward and council deliberates on the motion, then they can incorporate any questions that have been brought up by the public into their deliberations, their discussions, and that's the way it usually flows. And certainly me and Ms. Brock, or if you want to contact us outside the council, as long as it's not attorney-client
What if I
privilege,
give
I'll
them to
answer
you
as
in
best I
writing,
can.
will you give me answers?
I'm sorry, I didn't
If
hear
I give them the questions to you in writing, will you provide me answers?
Certainly, as much as I can, it's not attorney-client privilege, but something like High Point,
Like
Point
it
West, I can
on
cover that, yeah,
I don't think
absolutely.
it's none of that.
All
Sir.
right, thank you.
Eddie and Dan Warner. Mr. and Ms. Warner? Right here? I think it's Warner. Okay. Any other public hearing at this time? Any written comments can be delivered? All right, we'll move to close public hearing on 2020-06. We do have third and final reading, ordinance 2020-05, which is ordinance adopting the Oconee County 2020 Comprehensive Plan. Do I have a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I again would like to thank all those that worked hard on this. I'm glad to have the agricultural element in there. I have heard from multiple people in the state and farmers in my area that appreciate us acknowledging what they're doing. You know, farming is definitely a way of life, and it's definitely the way that we eat, and I appreciate that part being in there. Our planning department, Mr. Chapman, is unable to be here tonight with an issue, but I'm thankful for his leadership through that, and all those in planning commission. It was a long process. Those that actually attended those meetings, I think I attended 4 or 5 of them. I got a lot of great input from our citizens out there. It's kind of like the vote. 14% of people turn out to vote. I'd like to see 100% of people turn out to vote. But what happens is 13% turnout, and that's the way it goes, and that's the way we have to accept it. So to get more public involvement, we did everything we could. Ms. Brock led a very great setup on advertising, making sure people knew the meetings. They were all over the county. Every single district had like 2 or 3, some of them had 4, all the way out in Long Creek, the last one of the ones that I attended. So that's part of it, and being available. So unfortunately, everybody didn't turn out, but I think we got a great plan. I heard a lot of things as well. Any other comments?
Yes, sir. I don't have the comprehensive plan in front of me, but I did agree with one, there was 6 words at the end of 2 paragraphs there. One of them was protect the rights of property owners. And the next one rhymed with that. It says respect the rights of property owners. And that was the 2 things on there that I agreed with.
Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir, Mr. McCall.
What my objection to this plan is spending $79,000. Everybody says it was public input. Did we pay the public to come to the meeting? Where did the $79,000 go? And yet, the sheriff is desperate need of deputies. This is a little facetious, but maybe our comprehensive plan, we're going to establish Oconee County to be a crime-free corridor and just say, well, the sheriff ain't needed. It's all crime-free. That's our comprehensive plan. That's facetious and silly for me to say that. But that's what spending $79,000 sounds like. Thank you.
like to echo the positive comments. Appreciate the public coming out and speaking, both positive and negative. You know, we want to hear everybody. And that's the nice thing about representative government, is that we do listen before we make any decisions. And I want to especially thank those who participated, the public, in these meetings. Thank the staff, the Planning Commission, and this council for recognizing the importance of establishing a plan. And I hope that we're able to get it passed tonight, and then over the next, hopefully, few years, begin to implement the important parts of that. And that's when the real work is going to begin. And it will not be easy, but I have confidence in our team in this county, with our staff, to get these goals accomplished. And I look forward to working with staff and the public as we implement these goals, or implement these strategies and tactics to reach our goals. So that's all my comments today, Mr. Chairman.
And the comprehensive plan doesn't fall out of thin air. It's a requirement by the state that not only do we adopt it, but we have to continue to update that as well. So, you know, I enjoyed, again, attending the meetings that we had on there. The reason why we paid somebody to help with this process is because we don't have the staffing to actually implement a comprehensive plan as that. So we would have to actually hire, from my understanding, it was 4 to 5 people during that time period. So council at that time elected to vote, and I'm not sure what the vote was on that when we elected to have somebody.
Yes, 5-0? I can verify that.
I was thinking when we went through the comprehensive plan, it seemed like it was I don't know what that was. I'll be glad to pull that up.
We piggybacked on the 123 corridor study, if you remember, and I believe at that time it was a 5-0 for us just to do a planning mechanism, period.
Right.
We did do them in separate, but it was in one meeting that we did them. I can verify.
Right. But our goal at that time was to, instead of pushing all this pressure on staff to do this that we don't have to do that, we went out and that expenditure came before council at that time. So, any other comments?
Yeah, the expenditure came before council. For the comprehensive plan, the first part of it, we could have gone down to Benson Farm Supply and got a farmer's almanac and a calendar, and it told us 50% of it. The square footage, the square mileage of Oconee County, the medium temperature, the maximum temperature, sunset, sunrise, number of heating days, number of cooling days. Benson would have done it for free right down the street. You walk in there. That's what I'm objecting to. I thought we were going to get more for this. And then $79,000 for a Farmer's Almanac Plus. That's the sad part of it.
I think the plans really starts after the statement of the statistics.
Right.
I mean, that's, yeah, you could probably go on Wikipedia and pull that up too.
That's where the majority of it came.
I don't think the public came in here and asked, gave statistics on what the median, income is and demographic makeup. That was not what was the hard part.
The information in each section was generically pulled on Oconee County. The work that was actually done is in behind those documents that talks about the things that were discussed. There were several farmers that had a lot of different comments on there, things that they wanted to do, help delivering some of the things that they're doing as well. But each of those had a section that talked about population, talked about income in certain areas and things like that. So those are generically pulled. You're correct about that. That wasn't that was such a small part of the total comprehensive plan. Any other comments? we do have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we have no second readings. The first reading has been removed. We have first and final reading on the following resolution, Resolution 2020-03, resolution declaring Oconee County, South Carolina, a constitutional rights protected county. Whereas the United States Constitution explicitly states the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in the pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, U.S. Constitution, Article 6(2). And whereas the United States Constitution also establishes that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, U.S. Constitution Amendment 2. And whereas likewise the South Carolina Constitution provides that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, SC Constitution Article 1 and 20. And whereas the citizens of Oconee County have long supported the rights of the individual, particularly as those rights exist under the constitutions of South Carolina and of the United States, including the Second Amendment. And whereas the Oconee County Council, is concerned about the passage of any legislation or regulation which could be interpreted as unlawfully infringing on the rights of citizens of Oconee County to keep and bear arms. And whereas the council expresses its deep commitment to the rights of all citizens of Oconee County to keep and bear arms in a manner consistent with the constitutional safeguards noted above. And whereas the council wishes to publicly express its opposition to any law or regulation that would unconstitutionally restrict the rights of the citizens of Oconee County to keep and bear arms consistent with the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution and South Carolina Constitution. And whereas the council expresses its intent to stand as a constitutional rights protected county for Second Amendment rights and to lawfully oppose any efforts unconstitutionally restrict such rights and to such legal means at its disposal to protect the rights of its citizens to keep and bear arms. Now therefore be it resolved by the Oconee County Council that Oconee County shall, within its powers, duties, and responsibilities, respect, protect, and defend the Second Amendment rights of its citizens of Oconee County to lawfully keep and bear arms, that it will oppose within the limits of the constitutions of the United States and state of South Carolina and all applicable and appropriate decisional and statutory law any efforts to unconstitutionally restrict such rights. The Oconee County Council hereby declares Oconee County, South Carolina as a constitutional rights protected county. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion. Second.
Several motions and several seconds. All in favor? Aye. I'll stand for that. I do thank those that came tonight. We appreciate y'all being involved. I got several emails, had several great conversations with that. And if you came tonight for the Second Amendment, you stand specifically for Second Amendment? Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all being here tonight. Y'all welcome to continue to stay. All right. Discussion regarding action items. Design build services for Westminster Magistrate's Office for $15,000. This is staff's recommendation. Council approve the award of the RFP 1903 Design Build Services for Westminster Magistrate's Office to Trail Corporation of Clemson, South Carolina, in the amount of $15,000 for Phase 1 and 2. And just so the citizens are clear, Phase 1 is a schematic phase. Phase 2 is design development. Phase 3 is the construction documents, and Phase 4 is the actual construction. So Phase 1 is $5,000. Phase 2, Phase 1 is $10,000, which is the schematic phase, and Phase 2, which is the design development, is $5,000. The construction cost cannot be provided until Phase 1 and Phase 2 are complete. Staff will return the request council approval for Phase 3 and 4 upon completion of first 2 phases. Staff projects this to be June or July of 2020. So what we're approving tonight is $15,000 for Phase 1 and Phase 2. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Board and commission appointments, we don't have any out there right now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
for Arts and Historical Commission, I've got someone that's got to fill out their
Okay.
paperwork, and they live in Chickasaw, so
that's good.
we can fill that position maybe next meeting.
Okay. All right. Unfinished business, update on regarding litter-related penalties and control.
I'll start out. I know Ms. Brock is working on some ideas with this as well, but I took the investigation as to the penalty aspect of it, and we certainly can mirror what the state does. They have, and as I referenced before, our just general deputies and litter enforcement officers will write tickets, uniform tickets under the county ordinance as well as the state. The county ordinance, as it's written right now, allows for community service or litter pickup to be done or to be ordered by the judge. The state mandates it, that you have to do 8 hours. It does it by weight. You have to do 8 hours for a certain weight. If it's a gross littering issue, it can be up to 16 hours mandatory community service. The only way out of that is if you have some infirmity or something, the judge can let that out. So, if council wishes, I can revise our litter ordinance, the penalty provisions to track with the state. I think it's a fair way to revise that, keep it within the preemption doctrines that we have to be concerned about. Before any direction is given on that, the other aspect was having folks who are doing community service litter pickup perhaps wear some sort of identifying vest or clothing that would note that they are litter bugs, that they violated the litter ordinance or something to that effect. I believe Ms. Brock's idea that she's going to talk about regarding the litter task force and getting some education and some work done at the grassroots level might be good to do before that. But as to the legitimacy or legality of doing that, it's right smack dab in the middle of a gray area. I think you have some constitutional, I won't say infirmities, but at least some questions regarding it being, I know it sounds odd, but being a cruel and unusual punishment. This is an issue that other counties have faced. It's kind of it's called the scarlet letter punishment, similar, you're putting an A on somebody's chest. This is that same issue. And so I'm not going to say that you can get away, or not get away, that's the wrong phrase, but do it without anybody crying foul, but you might. I think that's just something to put some more deliberation into, and I think the litter task force that is going to be talked about some and needs to be investigated some more might be something to be a prelude to that.
What if me and Paul wear the suits with them?
That would help.
That way we're 3 people out there in litter bug costumes.
The visual. May I ask that those of us that
You
are
can.
female
I'll
be
send it
litter
to you.
fairies and our wings light up?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
David, what is Horry County doing? They got just about everything they do is community service.
They are probably doing the same thing the state's doing. There are a lot of jurisdictions that track, not all by any means, track with the state. And again, we can't take away the autonomy of the magistrates, completely. You can give guidelines for sentencing. And I don't know what Horry County does specifically, but my guess is if they take a strong route, then they're mandatory, or they mandate community service and litter pickup if you're as part of your sentence, so to speak, or your fine. I will certainly check with that, but at this point, you don't have to give me instructions, because you can just tell me, hey, you don't want it when I bring it back next time, but I'll revise the ordinance to track with the state provisions, and I'll look at Horry County to see if there's something.
That's one of the ways they run into their dirty MRF. Get caught for anything down there, you're gonna do community service.
Yeah, and that's another aspect of it is obviously how much policing power we have. We can write all the ordinances that, we want to write, but if we don't have enough manpower to catch the folks doing it or have grab the evidence that they did litter, then it makes it difficult, to enforce and to collect the fines.
Can I piggyback?
Piggyback.
May I piggyback off of his, please? So as we were working together on this, one of the things that after a strategic plan and after the last council meeting, I'd really like for us to be able to have a litter task force, which would include representatives from COBA, council districts. I have a list of people and agencies I believe would be good contributors to this task force, but I don't want it to be so large that we become some sort of bureaucracy and can't get anything done. Can we have approval for that tonight to put on the agenda?
Yeah, just directing let's just do it this way. If council wants to direct the staff to revise the litter ordinance and to bring back to council the kind of outline of what a task force would look like, that'd be an easy
So
motion to
moved.
make. All right.
Second. Lots of seconds, lots of motion.
Motion sickness.
You said it again. And discussion and a vote.
Yep. Any other discussion? One thing that I would like to see is when somebody's picking up trash, I've constantly heard this, what do they do with it afterwards? And so with part of this is having a little line to pick up the phone, because, I had 7 or 8 retreads that have blown off tires, and it's like you go over there to the place to throw them away, and they're looking at you like, those are tires, they have to go here. So there's things that we can do to make it simpler, after you have a litter cleanup, if you have the garbage yourself, what we can do with it, so.
Absolutely.
I
think
know
one
you're
of the
working
things
on that
that
as well.
I'd like the task force to do, and we were all at the Rural Summit, those of us who went, and it was really great, but they did have a video that showed the life cycle of a plastic bottle. We have those same opportunities here to be able to show the public what happens with the waste once it enters the waste stream and what happens to it before it gets to the recycling agency, after it is made into the product that it's going to be made into, whether that's redded or shredded tires or the steel belts that are magnetized out of that product and then brought back here to be recycled again. I'd really like for us to have that life cycle in the litter awareness, because a lot of people think that this can be recycled once. This can be recycled like 9 or 10 times. I think we lack an education campaign. We have a solid waste component, but we lack an education campaign. And as much as we want to be punitive and get the bad guys, we also need to tell the bad guys that what they're doing is bad and why.
We don't even wash these, we just fill them back up and pass them around, I don't know.
That explains that one right there.
It's for next week.
It's been a mystery all night.
So we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any new business?
I've got some old business.
Okay, old business, sorry.
So, I'd like,
I guess it's under unfinished business, so that's fine too. Keep it under there too.
oh, okay.
We don't have old business, but unfinished old.
Unfinished
Unfinished old, same thing.
I'd like to make a motion to clarify a motion that passed that I made maybe several months ago. And it's regarding the corridor planning that the planning department is doing. I'd like to make a motion that the scope should be the entire length of the corridor route that's being studied in Oconee County. And also the work, when it's done on the corridor study for the particular corridor, is referred back to the Economic and Planning Development Committee for review.
Second. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understood that motion, because it's a clarification of a prior motion, and this is to include the corridor planning for all the primary corridors in the county.
Right.
To refer the issue to Planning and Economic Development Committee, which we talked about it just earlier today.
Right.
And I think part of that was to ask that the Planning Commission direct its efforts to working with staff and administration to supplement those efforts so that you didn't have the duplication of work. Is that correct?
Correct.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
She said there was no second.
I second.
You did,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? All right. Anything else? Any new business? We do need a motion to go into executive session, for one, receive legal advice and discuss litigation regarding a contractual matter. Two, discussion regarding an economic development matter or project Trout. Do I have a motion to?
Make a motion.
Motion, and second. All in favor?
Ready?
Need a motion to reconvene?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? No action was taken in executive session. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In relation to the first item on executive session, that was the receipt of legal advice and discussion of a litigation, or of this litigation regarding a contractual matter. Ask for a motion to settle that matter as discussed and to direct the county administrator to sign the release.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We do have first reading of the following ordinance 2020-08, title only. Ordinance authorizing, number one, the execution and delivery of a development and infrastructure credit agreement to provide for infrastructure credits to Project Trout, and two, the issuance and delivery of a multi-county industrial park agreement with Pickens County and other matters related thereto. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye.